Good evening. I am Scott Lambert, and I would like to call to order the July 13th, 2022 East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce everyone to our attendees tonight. Peter Fixler and myself will be remote. At the township table, Rich Orlow is present with Solicitor Bernadette Kearney and Township Manager John Nagel. Some decorum points. This meeting is being recorded. Residents will have an opportunity to comment after each agenda item that we discuss by the staff or the board, and non-agenda items can be brought up during the public comment section number 9. As always, upon entering, please identify yourself and provide your address as you speak. Thank you for that. First item is the board briefings. But I would like to start off with, we've had some adjustments prior to our meeting tonight. So I need to make a motion to amend the agenda and add an item called the cure terms for the catalyst lease default. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. We will be adding that portion shortly. Under starting with 2A, the executive sessions were held on July 8th at 1:30 for legal personnel and real estate issues, and on July 13th today at 6:15 pertaining to legal and real estate matters. Next up is an update pertaining to the Route 30 corridor, and John Nagel and Steve Brown, if you can assist me or step in at any point in time, but I'd like to just give an update at this point where we are on this particular project. As you may recall, we applied back in April to have a what they call a raised grant federal infrastructure grant application for $25 million. That application was submitted, and we are waiting for the outcome, which will be announced on August 12th. In the meantime, we have been, the staff, John, myself, and Delta Consultants, we have been talking with our political representatives, elected officials, to give them updates and to answer any questions that we have pertaining to the scope of the project. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the assistant deputy for the U.S. Department of Transportation, and we were able to review the grant details and the scope of the project and answer a lot of his questions. That meeting went very well, and he gave us some information about some future grants that we might be potentially eligible for. According to our consultants, Delta Consulting, The meeting went very well. There were a lot of positive feedback, so we will wait and see again on August 12th. We continue to talk with our elected officials. The staff in Delta, we are meeting in Harrisburg on Monday with the assistant director at PennDOT and other legislators in Harrisburg on Monday as well. So that's kind of a recap where we are at that. Again, a wait and see attitudes, but we are very optimistic on the results and we keep pushing forward and talking to our elected officials. John, Steve, any other things that you want to add that I missed?
I have nothing further to add, Scott. I believe Chris Muniz is on from Delta, and he'll be explaining 4A under the agenda.
Okay, great, thanks. Next is 2C. John, if you can give us an update where we are on our sewer sale.
Yes, thank you, Scott. We're patiently waiting for the PUC to make a decision on the Aqua application to acquire the East Whiteland sewer system. We received news on Friday of the Willistown approval by the PUC, and we've been trending pretty consistent with the Willistown application by Aqua, and so that was approved on Friday. There is a monthly PUC hearing tomorrow, and we're anticipating also an approval from the PUC on that. We've tentatively scheduled settlement on the sale for August 12th. That's all I have to report.
Okay. And you remain on deck here with the campus master plan?
Yeah, I'm going to just introduce Jerry Gorski to the phone call. We are, basically the primary reason we have this on the agenda is to just give the board advance notice on the sequencing of the project with respect to the zoning. So if Jerry could lead us off with that, I'd appreciate it. Jerry.
Sure. Good evening. As John mentioned, we have a schedule put together. So if the board sees fit tonight, you would authorize a hearing date to be held in September for the rezoning of the portion of the township land which is currently residential. We will submit plans to the Planning Commission for their review, and we will introduce those plans at their public meeting on the 27th of this month. Plans will also go to the county following the review with the Township Planning Commission. The notices for the rezoning will go out in August. We'll meet with the Planning and Development Subcommittee in mid-August. The Planning Commission at their regular meeting on the 24th. And also discuss, obviously, the rezoning with the Planning Commission at that time. And we would expect to have the hearing for the rezoning in September with the Board of Supervisors, and obviously review the land development plan at the same time with a goal to have things ready for approval in October. Any questions on that sequence? And as far as the plan development and pricing, we expect that we will have the plans to a point of firm fixed price along with that same schedule that we would be ready to present to the board in mid-October.
Okay. Very good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jerry. Moving on, if Greg Lewis and Chris Yeager can tag team on a discussion or overview of the National Night Out program.
So it looks like it will be taking place, first of all. Weather permitting, of course, but I believe it's going to be 6 to 9 p.m. on August 2nd, which is a Tuesday, which is traditional for the National Night Out. And because we joined the National Night Out committees, the National Committee, they'll be sponsoring some of the activities. So we will be having activities like giveaways from the police department for little things for kids and other people. And the fire department should have some stuff similar, as well as EMS, and I guess Greg can talk about that in a minute. But we plan on having food trucks and just displays where people can see the vehicles. We're going to have as many vehicles as we can as possible, but unfortunately, since it's a national night out, everyone has their national night out on 8/2 of 22, so it's kind of hard pulling people in. We do plan on having a local news personality who will be participating as somewhat of an MC. We will have a DJ for music. So looks to be a fun night. It's the first one that we're having. So we kind of pulled it together. It was a pandemic. The pandemic could have had an effect on it, so it looks like we're going to be in good shape there. So based on that, it should be a fun night if we have good weather, and everybody should have fun. Should be plenty of food and plenty of take-homes. Get to see and look at the fire trucks, the ambulances, and the police cars from the inside, and hopefully some specialty vehicles, possibly a SWAT vehicle. So some things that they may not always get to look at closely.
Okay, great. I understand that Greg is perhaps on the Zoom call, but is under the weather. I don't know if you've got anything else to add, Greg, or not.
Good evening. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't have too much more to add, just that the fire department vehicles will be on display. We'll have fire prevention materials and such for the kids and adults. We'll have some fire safety stuff on hand, and it'll be just a good night for the community to be able to look at what we do in conjunction with the police department and emergency services in this township.
Looking forward to it. Super. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Moving on to 2F, Steve Brown, I guess if you can give us a little update on what has been so far a real successful summer concert series put on by the Parks and Rec Board. I understand the first and second concerts saw anywhere from 400 to 500 residents attend these concerts. So if you can give us an update on the third concert coming up, Steve?
Sure, Scott. Thank you for the summary of the first two concerts, which have gone very well. We have two more concerts yet this summer. The next one is Wednesday, July 20th, which is a week from tonight. It's at 6:30 in Valley Creek Park. A band called Sarah Shook and the Disarmers will be performing. They will have an opening act as well. And then the fourth and final concert will be August 17th at 6:30 p.m. in Valley Creek Park. And Jeffrey Gaines, who's relatively well-known, I guess, kind of folk singer, will be playing that evening.
Great.
Scott, do you mind if I forgot to mention the location? I don't want to see everybody wandering around at 7 o'clock August 2nd in the township. The location is going to be 40 Liberty Boulevard, which is right next to the Grove Shopping Center, so there will be parking and access to all the stores around. So that should make it quite a bit easier, but it's 40 Liberty Boulevard.
Okay. Thanks for that update and clarification. We are going to add a item on the board briefing for the residents, and give you an update here. It pertains to the Catalyst billboard along Route 30. Events that occurred a few weeks ago. On the evening of June 30th, a resident with a keen eye notified our code and staff folks about what appeared to be unauthorized tree removal at the base or surrounding where the Catalyst billboard sign is along Route 202. He also provided some disturbing photos that he ended up taking of what had occurred. We were on a skeleton crew going forward into that weekend, so I worked closely with Mark Moses, and he arranged for Brian Wilcom from our township to join me, and also he was able to get a aero engineer who was in standby to join us at the site and determine the extent of the damage, view it, and try to come up with next steps. When we arrived at the site, it was disturbing. We were unhappy with what we saw. What our goal was at this point in time was to secure the site and to make sure there was no more any further reduction of cutting of trees or vegetation. Steep slopes were clear cut, so to prevent erosion with the pending storms that July 4th weekend, Aaron from Arrow instructed the Catalyst site manager to install erosion control material, what they call silk stockings, I guess is the correct word. But also, we got commitment from the site manager to not move any further debris that they had started to remove because we were concerned about any further environmental damage. And also to talk with all the stakeholders involved to determine the best way to remove what was already been cut. We took numerous pictures. Mark Moses and Bill ended up contacting the Chester County Environmental Board, and we contacted other stakeholders, including Trout Unlimited and PennDOT, because some of the cuttings occurred on their easement. We subsequently came together and reviewed all the material with our solicitor, engineers, and staff, and we're very unhappy with what had occurred and how it occurred. And tonight we would like to put out a cure agreement to move forward to rectify this issue and to prevent it from going forward. Bernadette, maybe you can go through what this cure agreement actually does and some of the details for residents to understand.
Certainly. So the terms that have been set forth for the cure for Catalyst is a payment of $151,000 for the unauthorized removal, plus an additional $15,000 for professional consultant and staff fees and expenses presently incurred due to Catalyst default, for a total of $166,000 to be paid to the township owner before the issuance of a use and occupancy permit for the advertising display sign that is the subject of the Catalyst lease, but no later than September 12th, 2022, whether a use and occupancy permit is granted or not. So under the lease, there's a 60-day cure period We've given them that 60 days. If they get the use and occupancy before that, they owe us the $166,000. If they do not get the use and occupancy by September 12th, they have to pay, or the lease, the default stands and we have declared the lease terminated. They need to prepare a soil erosion and removal plan in compliance with the township ordinances, demonstrating how Catalyst will implement the reestablishment of vegetation in the areas disturbed outside of the premises, with a schedule of the items to be completed and the date of completion. They're required to prepare a plan in compliance with township ordinances demonstrating how Catalyst will remove debris and remediate the area disturbed by Catalyst's unauthorized action, with a schedule of the items to be completed and the date of completion. These items are to be reviewed and approved by township professionals, consultants, and staffs. The implementation of the work set forth in the plans that are being provided, once approved by the township, they have to implement that work in a timely manner as set forth in the schedules on the plans. Catalyst is required to reimburse township professionals, consultants, and staff for its fees, costs, and expenses related to the review and inspections and any other work related to the cure of the default from the date of the letter. And if the lessee fails to make the payment in the first paragraph that I read, or fails to proceed in accordance with these paragraphs, Catalyst shall be considered in default of the lease. No further opportunities to cure will be provided, and the lease is terminated.
Thank you, Bernadette. Rich, Peter, any other comments?
I have no other comments or questions.
I have no comments or questions.
Okay. So, Donna, do we have any questions from the public?
We have no questions online. Do we have anybody? Yes, we do have somebody that wants to come up.
My name is Martin Lutz. I live at Lap Road, Mill Lane. First of all, I want to thank Scott Lambert for immediately jumping on this issue. It was right before a holiday weekend, and many people are away. But he managed to gather people, go out and address the problem, and take appropriate action to stop the devastation or damage that was taking place. So again, Scott, thank you very much. I wasn't aware that this item was going to be on the schedule tonight, but I'm not sure I quite understood the terms of the agreement, how you came up with $166,000. Bernadette, maybe you could explain that again?
Say your last question again, Marty.
I'm not quite sure how in your discussion of the settlement or cure, how you came up with $166,000. Could you explain that part again?
Yeah, the $151,000 is what was determined to be the cost of the trees that were disturbed, shall we say, whether they be taken all down or topped. So that's the $151,000. The $15,000 is for staff, the professionals.
Right, a lot went into it. Right?
Yeah, for everyone's time.
Yeah. The other question is, have we received any feedback from Chester County, for example, the Conservation District or PennDOT at this time?
I'm not aware of any, and I don't
We
know.
have not.
Who was that?
Can you hear me?
Marty, that's Mark Moses.
Oh.
He's on our code staff.
Okay.
He's
Thanks, Mark.
he's been involved in the project.
Okay.
So we have not. I did contact PennDOT, Ken Kavanaugh from PennDOT, who issues the permits for them to be within the right of way. He was checking into that, but he was not aware of any permits they had to be within that right of way. I did correspond with Galen Criswell from the Chester County Conservation District, and I've left several messages with another representative from the district that she gave me. I have not received a response, but so for now, we have not received any response from those entities.
I will add that Mark was coordinating this activity Friday morning and from his home while he was on vacation, and he had contacted the Conservation District Friday as well. But again, as you're saying, it was a July 4th weekend, so it was a limited staff.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that the way this took place, obviously it was just before the 4th of July weekend. The township building permit that was approved, as I understand it, specifically said that the steep slopes would not be disturbed, that tree removal would be coordinated with the township. These are all things that were known to the applicant and the contractor. But again, this took place. I think one can conclude that it wasn't done on the up and up, let's put it that way. So my biggest concern is how do we prevent this in the future? I know the fine at this time is large, and the applicant knows the township's not going to just stand by and let them do whatever they want. But again, the way this took place, what's to prevent them from just willy-nilly going take their chances? Because if you go back, I did some research on the application for the off-site advertising device, the billboard. And the application specifically asks the question of the applicant. It says, do you plan to remove any vegetation or trees? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, they don't get a permit issued to build a billboard, all right? So one has the question, how did they answer that question? All right, if they said no, then, well, and then they proceeded to do it while the billboard was under construction, again, it doesn't speak well to the credibility of the applicant. So, again, the concern here is there anything to prevent this, or other steps we can take to prevent this kind of situation again? Because looking at the trees and the sight distance for that billboard, obviously there are other trees, it's clear to me, that they're impeding the sight distance. So I'd hate to see some point in the future, prior to some holiday weekend, all of a sudden we lose more trees, you know, large sycamore trees. These are not, some of these trees are 3 foot in diameter. So again, is there anything further that we can do in this regard? I'm not diminishing what you've done, it's a lot. But again, is there anything further to prevent this kind of situation?
May I respond?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
With regard to this specific site, the applicant is aware, very well aware, that no specific site work will be completed or even performed without the township's engineer watching the site consistently. So the only work that will be performed on the site would be on the specific structure itself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I guess my concern is more like 5-10 years down the road, after they have their, whatever you call the permit to make the billboard operational. Because vegetation grows, you know, the trees are going to grow, the sight distance is going to be impeded. So what's to prevent that? As I recall, you know, back from the public hearing on the billboard, it was my understanding from the response of the applicant that the slopes would not be disturbed and there was no need to remove trees and vegetation. But again, vegetation grows, so, you know, what are we going to do 5-10 years from now, particularly if it's not caught?
You're right. He intentionally disregarded his obligations, I think, no doubt about it. What we can do, probably the township people that pass by constantly is the police. So we can certainly alert the police to always keep an eye on that. If we wanted to go to the extreme, maybe we could put a camera up there with a feed to the township so we can monitor it. I mean, we can't monitor it 24/7, but that's what I think could be done. Other than that, you know, they have the right to access it. Barriers maybe somehow in other parts of the parcel. You can think about it. But, that's the best I can think of at the moment.
I think your idea is a good one. It's some type of systematic monitoring.
Yeah.
It's a question, do we develop a plan and actually something I think township they want to consider. So again, Scott, thank you for getting on top of this, and thank the township for steps you've taken.
And thank you for
Thank-
your notice.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Again, thank you very much. And the entire staff and everyone on the board that got involved with this and brought this to the conclusion in a very short order of time. So at this point in time, if there are no other questions, Donna, out there,
There are not.
then I guess we need to make a motion to accept the Cure Catalyst agreement regarding the lease default. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Okay. Thank you.
We actually
Moving
have
on.
I'm sorry, we actually have a question. Hold on for 1 second. Jim Leonard, do you want to unmute yourself, please? Never mind.
Okay. Jim, I think there's audio problems.
I think
Can
it
you
was
send
just, I don't know how that person got in. I didn't let them in, so I think it was just a spam, so I removed them.
Okay.
Okay.
Donna, what was the name?
Jim Leonard.
Oh.
Okay. Moving on, I will turn over to agenda item number 3, to public hearings, to Steve Brown and Bernadette Kearney.
I'll take it over, Steve. Thank you. I'm going to read the legal notice for the public hearing. Notice is hereby given that on July 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the East Whiteland Township Municipal Building located at 209 Conestoga Road, Fraser, PA, the Board of Supervisors of East Whiteland Township shall hold a public hearing on and immediately thereafter at the public meeting will consider adoption of the following ordinance. An ordinance amending the East Whiteland Township Code, Chapter 154, Sewers and Sewage Disposal, to add a new Part 5, Sewage Grinder Pumps, containing a new Article 12, Installation, Use, and Maintenance, which includes new sections 154-124 to 154-132, establishing requirements for the installation and use of sewage grinder pumps and associated low-pressure laterals, responsibilities of property owners for the proper maintenance of sewage grinder pumps, and procedures for abatement or mitigation by the township of nuisances caused by improperly maintained sewage grinder pumps. I'm going to mark a series of exhibits. B1 is the ordinance considered for adoption. B2 is the legal notice of hearing. B3 is the June 30th, 2022 email with letter and enclosed proposed ordinance and legal notice of hearing to the Daily Local News. B4 is the June 30th, 2022 email with letter and enclosed attested ordinance sent to Chester County Law Library. And B5 is the proof of publication in the Daily Local newspaper. And John Yield can also comment, but this ordinance we're putting into effect for basically 2 subdivisions, Backton Hill and Plainbrook, if I'm correct, that we needed to have this sewage grinder pump ordinance in place. And we're doing it now because as the sewer sale goes through, this ordinance needed to be in place before that. So I don't know if there's any specific questions, but the ordinance lays out the low-pressure laterals and sewer grinder pumps and the maintenance responsibilities of the property owner and how the township enforces the ordinance. Donna, was there any specific questions?
Doesn't look like there is, no.
I don't know if the board had any questions?
The two subdivisions, again, one's Backton Hill, is that the 6 units that are being marketed now?
No, these are the sewer projects,
Oh, okay, all right, okay,
so Back to Hill and Plainville area sewer project.
got it, okay, got it.
If there's no further public questions, we can close the public hearing and go back to the public meeting to vote upon the ordinance.
Okay. Is there any further questions, comments? I'll make a motion. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance amending Chapter 154 regarding sewers and sewage disposal to add requirements related to sewage grinder pumps.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes. Thank you, Bernadette. And moving on to board motions and resolutions. We have a discussion just pertaining to another grant application to support our RAISE grant application for engineering. Perhaps Christian and John Nagel can lead us through that.
Scott, I think Chris is prepared to summarize this action. So Chris, take it from here. Chris, you're on mute.
Chris, you're mute. You're mute.
Can you hear me now?
Feedback.
That's because he's
Can you
using
hear
his
me?
phone. Okay, there you go.
Yes.
Okay.
Chris, you just muted yourself again. Okay.
Now?
Now you're good. Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
No?
Can you hear us?
Okay, I can't hear you.
That's okay.
I'll message him.
Okay, I'll begin to talk. I had dialed in with my cell. I'll have to call back in to take questions because I can't hear you. But I'll describe this grant. It's a multimodal transportation grant through the state, through the Department of Community and Economic Development, and it's overseen by the Commonwealth Finance Authority, which is a board made up of legislative appointees in the governor's office. What you're considering tonight is a resolution. Any public sector applicant for many state programs has to pass a resolution requesting the grant. It's a basic part of our application, and that's what is before you tonight. And I apologize I can't hear you, so but maybe John could say a few words if he has anything to add, and I'll dial in with my cell phone again.
Thanks, Chris. I can pick it up from here. I spoke with Chris's associate, Rick Rossi, who's the lead on the Delta for this project. And he recommended that even though the estimate for the preliminary design work is likely to be around $750,000, he said just to be safe, we should apply for a grant up to $1 million. That's why it's listed that way on the agenda. McMahon is preparing a more revised estimate of what that project cost can be. And then it will be, once the board would consider approving the application or the resolution, then we'll be coming back to the board with more information regarding the actual proposal for the preliminary design work. So that's it in a nutshell. The only other thing I'll stop.
Okay.
I believe the deadline for the application. I believe the deadline for the application is the end of this month.
I just have
That's
one
correct,
question.
July 31st.
How competitive are these?
These are competitive. We would solicit proposals from multiple firms.
But the actual ability to get the grant, are 1,000 different people applying for the same grant, or 10, or do we even know? Are they routinely?
I can jump in there, I'm back on. I can't tell you definitively the number, but I would be surprised if statewide there's between 750 and 1,000 applicants. Just about any state funding I would consider competitive. This particular process involves a lot of legislative work. So we're going to do outreach to your sitting House member, your current senator, as well as the upcoming senator in the new district. We'll engage directly with DCD and the governor's office, and then the leadership staff of each of the caucuses, in your case, House Democrats and Senate Democrats. So it does require political support of your local legislators, and it requires their caucuses to get behind it as well. So it's competitive, but we'll be putting forth a vigorous effort.
What's their typical timeline to decide?
Well, the Commonwealth Finance Authority Board, the CFA, for this application, would typically consider awards at their November board meeting. That's what they're anticipating. But I will caution you, because it's made up of representatives of each of the 4 legislative caucuses in the governor's office. There from time to time has been unrelated political activities that delays board consideration. It's a so-called veto board, so that it requires an affirmative vote of each caucus board member and at least one of the 5 gubernatorial appointees. So, in other words, if there's something else at play that they're disagreeing on, the politics of the unrelated item can necessarily, become involved in something like the CFA. But we're past the budget. The meeting will be past the election season, or the election day on November 8th. So I think there's a relatively good chance that this board meeting will go on time. And as long as they review all the applications in time, it does take a lot of man hours just to the raw review of the many applications they'll receive. As long as they get that done at a staff level at DCD, I think the chances are better than normal that they would decide this November at the anticipated board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll add that any work that is performed underneath a successful grant for the preliminary engineering on this, in the event that we do not get the August 12th approval, we'll be looking forward to a second round. That work that would be conducted under this grant would be usable for that additional or any additional work or further grant application, correct?
Is that to me, Scott?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, any other questions?
Nope, none.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion for the resolution for the application. Peter?
Make a motion for the application of the BCED Multimodal Transportation Fund Grant for Route 30 corridor designs.
Yep, for the amount of $1
For the
million.
amount of $1 million. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution passed. Thank you. 4B, John Neal, if you can give us an overview on the MS4 Restoration Partnership.
Yes, we have representatives from Working Lands Investment Partners, who is working for the Turnpike. They approached us about an MS4 project at Valley Creek Park, and they have a short presentation that they'd like to give. It's a brief overview, and basically asking for approval to work in the park and work with the township to meet the Turnpike's goals, but they will also go towards the township's goals for our MS4 permit.
Good evening. My name is Robert Maiden. I'm the Managing Director of Working Lands Investment Partners. I have my colleague and lead engineer, Coleman, who is also going to present here this evening. We're hoping to be very concise, and I do want to say thank you, John. It's been a real pleasure to work with, getting us on this agenda so quickly and getting out to site. It's just been very helpful. So thank you to that. Working Lands at a real quick high level, we're a stream restoration water quality company based in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Harrisburg. We work predominantly in the south central and the southeast of Pennsylvania. Our goal really is to build very unique projects that bring together quite a bit of different ancillary benefits to the community, just besides water quality. We're all conservationists. We really care about water quality, but we also care about the economy. We also care about education. We also care about getting folks out and learning about the process. So that's a big part of our business. And this opportunity, as John described, we were recently won a Turnpike Commission and PennDOT and also the New Garden Township. It's really an IFB, invitation to bid, but basically a request for proposal. It's a little bit different. There's some nuance there, but for the most part, it's a request for proposal. We won that, and then they require us, the Turnpike Commission, all those entities have different requirements. The Turnpike Commission, we have to work within 1 mile of the right-of-way. So our team, we do a lot of work. We do a lot of land acquisition and finding unique sites that can provide a lot of water quality benefit and also those other benefits. So we searched the watershed 1 mile within the right-of-way of the Turnpike Commission, and we came up with a host of sites. And you guys have the site here that we're very interested in, which is the Valley Creek Park. It has a lot of benefits to it. So we identified that and met with John, and we're very interested in working there and building a stream restoration project. At this point, we're still in like the 20% preliminary design, and Mary's going to jump into a little bit. We were asked to be concise, so we're not going to go too far into the design plan unless you guys have questions, and we're happy to provide you that follow-up information. But I think the real bottom line is the Turnpike Commission is paying for us to build a project to create them 104,063 credits. That's right on the nose for them. We could overproduce those credits, but those are the credits that they need within 1 mile of their right-of-way. So if we produce those credits 1 mile within the right-of-way at Valley Creek Park, the township also gets those credits to your MS4 permit for no expense to you at all. So it's a really unique process. It's a pretty new system. PennDOT rolled it out approximately a couple years ago. It's taken a little time to catch on, but it's becoming more prominent and more prominent in each watershed. It's in the Chesapeake Bay, it's in the Delaware, it's also in the Ohio. So it's starting to take place, but it does have a lot of benefits. It's really trying to connect with the community and try to leverage taxpayer dollars to build projects and reduce costs for everybody. So it's unique, and we have a really great opportunity to work here. So our goal is to present this proposed project and perhaps get your permission to work on this property in the future. And we're happy to have a lot of discussion. I'll just close with this. This is just like the beginning. We're very big on communication. And Mary could say we're very big on getting input from stakeholders, adapting. So our plan is a preliminary plan that can score high, but through the process, we're very, very interested in working with Arrow and other folks to make the project as best as it can be, not only for the Turnpike Commission, but for the township and basically the constituents of Chester County. So I'll stop there and kick it over to Mary to try to dive into a little bit of the details. That's okay.
Hi, good evening. So within Valley Creek Park, we have approximately 1,412 feet of stream channel, which is more than the Turnpike Commission needs to satisfy their sediment reduction. And we think, based on our preliminary site visits to the park, that it's a good candidate for restoration. There's bank erosion there. The Valley Creek watershed is known for siltation impairment. It's on the integrated list currently for siltation impairments, so it makes this watershed also well suited for stream restoration. We did notice out at the park that the existing pedestrian bridge has some indications of erosion around that along the trail, so that's something that we could address as well as part of the stream restoration project. There appears to be some erosion from some stormwater runoff from the park that's discharging into the stream channel as well that we could address through various restoration techniques as part of the project beyond what's in the main stream channel. And as Robert mentioned, you know, we'd be open to any input from the township on what you'd like to see incorporated into the restoration project. There's a large range really of what we propose to do for restoration within the channel, anywhere from incorporating woody debris as habitat features, adding fishing habitat into the creek, and then adding rock and armoring structures, more traditional, you know, engineered structures as part of that restoration approach. We're still very early in the stages, and obviously, you know, we're here tonight hoping to get your permission to move forward with it as an official project under this IFB that Robert mentioned, that I did include in the handouts that I think some of you here in person have, and we can certainly follow up later. Some of the preliminary conceptuals that we're at least looking at involving root wads and boulder toe stabilization, some cross vein structures, some enhancement to some of the existing riffle features, and added additional floodplain storage because I think it's a good candidate for some additional remediation for flood control as well. So that's just a very high level. I'm not going to get into the weeds unless you want me to, but we're happy to take any questions from you at this point.
So this is a program fully funded by PennDOT?
Yes.
Okay. Do they have similar projects or opportunities for other state roads, or is it just the Turnpike?
It's the Turnpike, and then it's PennDOT's roads as well. So Robert mentioned briefly that part of the contract involves work within New Garden Township, so we're working with that township directly on some stream restoration projects within their municipality, but with PennDOT, they're allowed to look at projects anywhere within the Delaware River watershed, which, as we know, is a massive geographic region of Pennsylvania. So we have open opportunity to look at additional sites. If your township was interested, we have additional credits that PennDOT needs to have. So we're open to, you know, additional sites to review.
These credits, they all get credited to PennDOT's requirements
MS4
under
permit.
MS4?
Correct.
And do we get, because
You
we have
also
MS4 requirements also.
Right, you get your MS4 requirements as well.
We must, yeah, right, they must help us too.
Yes. Yeah, it's a double benefit because it
Sure.
offers you that benefit, but PennDOT's also getting benefit for their MS4
Sure.
requirements.
Yeah, we have a few state roads in our township.
Absolutely, you do. Even the park is on a state road, so yeah, that worked out well.
Exactly, okay, well, that's good
Yeah.
to know. And this is a relatively new program, so
Yeah, Robert mentioned it's
Okay.
been a few years now that they've done contracts like this. I think they started with one over in the Paxton Creek near Harrisburg, and then they've done some now in the Chesapeake region. And then this one is the first for them to entertain in the Delaware River Basin.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Question? As you know, the Little Valley Creek runs throughout, meanders throughout East Whiteland Township. Sounds like a great program that you've got here. How would we go about trying to expand what you're doing beyond Valley Creek area?
So if you have sites that you'd like us to take a look at, we could certainly arrange to meet you out there, or you could give us, the site locations, and we can do our own reconnaissance and see if we can add them in. We're at that stage with PennDOT now. We have an initial conceptual deadline coming up at the end of July. So this would be optimal time for us to explore additional sites that you might want to consider having us look at towards this project. We'd be open to it. We have a lot of flexibility at the moment in terms of where we select the site.
I don't know if you would know this answer, but if you exceed the MS4 credits that you're required to obtain or produce in a certain time period, does the excess roll over to the future? It does.
I believe
Okay.
so, yes. That's what we've been told.
How far into the future? Just
We
curious.
go to the next permit cycle is what I believe we've been
Okay,
told.
so one more permit cycle. Okay, all right, good to know.
That's probably
Great.
a really good policy that DEP came up with.
Sure.
So that they allow you to advance payment, basically.
Towards your next permit cycle.
Because I doubt they're gonna, stop dialing down, the credits over time. So they're
Sure.
always gonna get a little stricter. So this way you're getting ahead of it. And just maybe one thing we didn't really get to add too much is if you build at scale like this, not only is it
Right.
right,
It's
so
more cost effective the larger scale you go.
might as well just do it now. You don't have to pay anything now. Overall.
Right.
I have a question or two.
Sure.
My first question is, who will maintain these improvements once they're made? For example, the riparian buffer, I know, takes a lot of maintenance. And
Sure does. Yeah, the maintenance requirements falls to Working Lands, so that's part of the agreement with PennDOT that they maintain it in perpetuity.
Okay, I'm looking at our Public Works Director, and he's smiling. Yeah. Okay, maintained by Working Lands and PennDOT in perpetuity. All right, and I understand that these plans are still in the process of being prepared, but is it possible, and I actually know it's possible, but would you please add some of our park features, like where's the bridge and
Absolutely.
just where's our playground? And I know there's a little bench down near the creek. And
Yeah, we'll add all of that.
if you can add that, just, it'll help us understand it, and I will share this with our Park and Rec Board and explain it to them. And I think it's a great thing, for the park, for us and for PennDOT. So I look at it positively, but it'll just help everyone understand what's going on better.
Yes, absolutely, we can add that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I actually think we might have a question here from someone. Pete Goodman, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, don't PennDOT and the Turnpike Commission have different requirements for their MS4? You were seeming to indicate that it's like one entity, but I think they're separate, aren't they?
Yes, they are different. The Turnpike Commission has its own MS4 obligation, which Robert mentioned, I think, is 104,063 credits that they are required to have within their 1 mile of the Turnpike right-of-way. And then PennDOT has a much larger obligation across the entire Delaware River watershed. So they're both independent of each other in terms of their MS4 requirements. However, under this contract, they decided, I think from a cost-effective standpoint, probably to team up to do these projects together so that they can bundle everything as one. But they're both meeting separate permit obligations.
And those separate permit obligations would be achieved under the work to be done in Valley Creek Park?
So Valley Creek Park specifically, we're looking at to address the Turnpike Commission's requirements because it meets that 1 mile radius from their right-of-way. And then also, if there's additional credits remaining, PennDOT may pick those up because we have estimated more credits available from the restoration efforts there than the Turnpike Commission requires for their MS4 permit. So it could be a project that satisfies obligation for both agencies as well as the municipality.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, Pete Goodman, I believe, still represents Trout Unlimited, so just so you know.
Good, thank you.
Right.
I'm sorry. I should have introduced myself.
Pete, do you have another question? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anyone?
None.
Okay. While this doesn't require a resolution or an ordinance, what we'd like to do is certainly just have a vote of board approval noted in an agreement to move forward with this and give them the support. So I'll make a motion to approve the MS4 Stream Restoration Partnership with PennDOT for Valley Creek Park. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, folks, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we may have some more work for you lined up. Right, John? Neil? John's hiding. Bernadette, if you can tie in Act 537 plan.
Yes, as part of the sewer sale, the DEP required the township to adopt a resolution amending the Act 537 plan, and this Chuck Faulkner and myself, we reviewed this resolution, and it has been approved by DEP. So this was the form that DEP wanted us to use to basically say that East Whiteland Township had prepared their Act 537 special study transfer of sanitary sewage facilities dated April 18th of this year, last revised July 7th, just to explain what the township is doing in reference to selling the sanitary sewer system. And we had gone around to the local municipalities adjoining East Whiteland, got their comments, and there was also a public comment period, and Chuck has addressed those in the revised July 7th study.
Sure. Bernadette, in the event that the sewer sale did not go through, what impact would approving this have?
I don't think it would affect anything. It would be basically a void resolution because it is DEP requiring us to do this because of the sale. So if the sale didn't occur, those public comments and things like that, yeah, it really would be void.
Okay. Peter, Rich, any other questions?
No, none.
Okay. Donna, anything from the public?
No.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion, Rich.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution to adopt the amended Act 537 plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes.
Thank you.
Steve Brown, if you can lead us regarding the Malley engagement letter?
Scott, Steve's temporarily left the room, but I think Usha's also working on that project, so maybe she can help.
So we are engaging, this is pretty much, we are asking for approval for Malley engagement. I didn't bring my glasses, sorry. Approve Malley engagement letter for using to help with ARPA as needed. So if we need Malley for anything, for our account structure or any kind of, any help with the ARPA money, we are asking for their engagement.
As I understand it, is a open agreement and using their standard billing rates, which we already have because they do our annual audit.
Without this engagement letter, are we prohibited from working with Malley for anything?
Not, I mean, this is a special criteria here. Steve is.
We're talking about Malley?
ARPA, yeah.
Yeah, this is just a standard engagement letter. We'll only pay them if we need to use them to help design our program. For example, well, some of our monies are going to go for the HVAC system here in the building, and then we still have a substantial amount of money, and we've talked about getting at least some of that out into the community, the human service agencies, the food bank, things like that. And I've got a rough draft of an application that I'd like Malley to take a look at, just to make sure when we end up spending the money and we report to the federal government, we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And Usha will be helping with that as well.
Accounting part of it.
Right. And
We need help, I'm sorry.
especially on the reporting side, we want to make sure we're doing what we have to for the Treasury Department. So it's just use them as necessary.
Scott, it's not a conflict. We have consultants that do multiple proposals, whether it be Arrow or McMahon and so on.
Okay. Makes sense at this point in time. Back-end audits are never any fun, so hopefully we don't go through, but if we do, we've got Malley. Fine. Peter, would you like to make a motion?
I can make a motion to approve Malley engagement letter for using to help with ARPA as needed.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Engagement letter is approved. John, I guess give us a quick overview. We've talked about this on numerous occasions regarding this HVAC update.
Correct, and Jerry Gorski's here. I believe we've satisfied the proposal pieces to this, and what's left is the agreements that govern the two proposals that are before us. So between Bernadette and Jerry, maybe we can get an update on that. I don't know that it's ready for this evening.
And before Jerry chimes in, I will say Laura Lawson, who is the attorney for BSC, called me today. There were two slight changes she was going to make in the agreements, but she was getting on a plane, so I didn't quite get them. But we agreed on the two slight changes in the agreement, so we should be ready to sign after she makes those two slight changes.
Okay.
Jerry, is there anything additional to report on the project?
No, my understanding is the same as Bernadette's. I think everybody has this, I think we're all in agreement with the actual contracts at this point. If you want a quick update on the schedule, I can give you that.
That would be great.
Okay, so equipment is coming just after Labor Day, and so work would begin the first week in September, and including removal of the existing equipment and installing all the new equipment, we propose that we would have that wrapped up before the end of October.
Jerry, from a practical standpoint, if I were working in the building and you're taking down the HVAC and we get a September 90 degree day, is there any relief that the employees can get during that period of time?
We have provisions for, our hope is that we're headed into a little bit more moderate weather, but we do have some provisions for temporary equipment if needed.
Okay.
As the administrative side of the building is non-essential as far as first responders, we would likely activate temporarily a working from home schedule.
Okay. All right, then we will wait for these to be finalized before we vote on those, correct? So.
I think you would want to.
Yeah, I think we can vote on it. As long as the changes that we want are reflected in the final written document. Otherwise, we lose a whole month.
Okay.
Unless we have a special meeting for that. I know we all love to have special meetings.
And I do expect to get them likely tomorrow.
As long as they're not on a Friday afternoon.
Right, right. But I don't have a problem voting on it.
I don't have a problem voting on it with the contingencies that you may call out for tonight or whatever, Bernadette, whatever you think covers us, protects us.
Yeah, I'm fine with the contingency that the requested amendments to the contracts are provided to us, that's the contract that will be signed.
Okay. I will let my esteemed colleague, Esquire Rich Orlow, provide the motion on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal and contract with Blue Scope Construction for the HVAC for $765,233, and we may as well do the other one also.
Yes.
Approve the proposal contract with Blue Scope for the electrical improvements for $40,755, subject to the contract being in final acceptable form and substance to our solicitor as negotiated.
Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Okay.
I could do this one, Scott.
Peter, you really are looking not well here.
I'm not.
Hang in there, buddy. Hang in there. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and make a motion on this?
With pleasure. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Bill Bradley to the Planning Commission for the term of 4 years, ending in 12/31/2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don't miss you there, Peter.
They're going to do great.
And Steve Brown, can you tell us about our new zoning officer? Or the conditional
Sorry, Scott. I am happy to announce that we've made an offer and it was accepted by Mr. John Matea to take the position of zoning officer and code enforcement officer. John has a lot of experience with different municipalities. Currently, Norristown Borough has worked for Upper Merion Township as well as Tredyffrin Township, and has done some work in the private sector as well. So he has a lot of experience in all types of property maintenance issues and zoning issues, and actually has knowledge of stormwater systems and other public improvements. And so we're fortunate to find a candidate with his wealth of knowledge and experience.
Okay. Sounds good. Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, make a motion to approve the conditional job offer to John Matea for zoning officer.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye. Congratulations, John. And for the residents who are out there, this position, John will take the place previously that Ted Locker held prior to his retirement. Moving on to number 7, Zach, if you can give us information pertaining to the EV charging station information.
Sure, thanks, Scott. This is a request for waiver of land development, or the land development process for a electric vehicle charging station at the Wawa store at the corner of Matthews Road and Route 29. It's about a dozen electrical vehicle charging stations on the western side of the site along Route 29. It'll be in a sort of a lesser trafficked or lesser used part of the existing parking area. They'll be replacing some of the existing landscaping that'll be removed. There's some trenching and some concrete work to provide some of the transformers and electrical components to service these dispensers, as they call them. So we have the applicant, Tesla Inc. here. There will be both Tesla and EVgo dispensers, so some that are brand specific and some that are more universal. I know in the essence of time the board is trying to move quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions specific to the project, and the applicant is also here.
I don't have any questions. The plan looks good. It's in a good spot. It's where nobody else ever parks. And it's a good spot, yeah.
Is the applicant amiable to the Arrow engineering letter? There were, like a minor spec in there that needed tweaking or following.
Henry, with Tesla, yes, we basically are complying with the landscaping letter, and there was some more tweaking that happened over the past couple of days, but yes, we're okay with everything.
Thank you.
So Peter, to your question, every one of there's a McMahon review letter, a staff review letter, a landscape letter, all of that is contained in the resolution, so we'll have to comply with that. As Henry said, we did coordinate a little bit further on the landscape plan, but they're amenable to all those conditions that are in compliance with all those comments.
Excellent.
And Henry, for any of the residents who want to see potentially what this looks like, the closest one that you've got at a Wawa right now, what is, if I recall, King of Prussia?
King of Prussia is the closest one that is not at a Wawa. The closest Wawa is Glen Mills.
Glen Mills and Wawa. Okay.
That's eight supercharger posts, which is what we're gonna do here, except here we have 4 EVgo.
Okay.
Along with your dealership over on Westchester Pike.
Sure.
Right.
We try not to make these specifically for the service centers, but 2 separate things. Still nice.
Donna, do we have any questions from the residents?
No, we don't.
We don't have any electric vehicles yet, do we? Either police or admin?
We've talked about it, but not
Yeah,
yet.
okay, all right, not yet. There'll be a time.
Elon wants to give us a test
You can tweet at Elon.
As soon as Elon Musk starts paying taxes, then we might consider it.
He's got a lot on his mind now.
Twitter deed, Twitter dumb. Okay. With that, any further questions? Peter, would you like to make a motion?
I would love to. I'd like to make a motion to waive the request for land development for electric vehicle charging station at Wawa at the corner of Route 29 and Matthews Road.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you so much.
Passes. Thank you, Henry. Next, Zach.
Sure, these next three are all for extensions. Each project is working its way through the approval process, so we've requested an extension until the end of October. For the, so there's a office flex building on South Malin Road, one at 9 Malin and one at 10 Malin. And the third here is for the proposed parking structure at 41 Moores Road. We have not gotten a specific status update on that project, but I understand that there may be some activity, and I will be getting some more information on that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Rich, can I have a motion?
Sure. Make a motion to extend the time to render a decision on 3 land development applications, LD 12, 2021, 9 Malin Road, LD 1, 2022, 41 Moores, LD 2, 2022 for 10 Malin, all until October 31st, 2022. These are for land development, correct? Right, yep, okay.
Okay. Peter, do I have a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Extension given. I think this was pretty clear cut, Zach, with the ducklings letter.
Yeah, so they're just requesting final release of the remaining funds associated with their letter of credit. All that was really left for them to do was to convert their stormwater basin, which they've done. It's been inspected, so we are in a position to release the remaining, it's about $57,000.
Okay, and why don't we package this? What's the deal with 45 Liberty?
Oh, sure, I wanted to provide an update on that. There are a couple more cleanup items on that. There's a couple trees that were missing from the site, which Arrow noted in their inspection, so they have withdrawn their request for final release, and we'll be planting those trees and coming back. I apologize for that.
Okay. Then, Peter, can we have a motion for the ducklings?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to release the letter of credit to Ducklings Early Learning Center, 105 Church Road.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. All right. Bernadette, we've got 7F.
Yes, this is a request to ratify the Great Valley School District Escrow Agreement and interim cost estimates for erosion, sedimentation, and parking lot work. While we're going through the process of getting the land development agreement and the the financial security agreement, they're using PNC Bank, done, they needed to get out there and start working. Specifically, one of the issues that they needed to get done was the parking lot, so that when school opens up, the teachers have somewhere to park. So you'll see that we did a short agreement. They did put up, and I'm looking for the exact amount, but it was several $100,000 they put up as part of this interim agreement. And we are working with Andy Freeman, the attorney for the school district, to finalize the land development and financial security agreement. But in the meantime, in order for them to get working basically on prepping the site, we did allow them to do that based on a cost estimate that Arrow reviewed. And we signed the agreement. They provided the check to the township, and we're just asking for a ratification of the agreement.
Would this be considered a bit of an exception to doing it in this order?
This is like a fast tracking.
A fast
Because,
tracking.
yes, they needed to put a shovel in the ground to get working in order to meet their timetable during the summer to get that parking lot done and to start moving dirt out there. But we didn't have the finalized land development agreement and agreement with PNC. So we didn't want to hold them up, but they did put up the money
Right.
based on the cost estimates just for their work they're doing for 1 month. This goes to August 1st. We got to get the LDA and the financial security agreement done by August 1st. And I think we're almost there.
Okay. I think we're more than happy to fast track that. Peter, can I have a motion?
Sure, I will make a motion to ratify the interim cost estimate for erosion sediment parking lot, the Great Valley School District, Escrow.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so passes. Okay. Zach, if you can give us an update here on overview on the conditional use at Fetter's Mill.
Sure. So what we're actually requesting here tonight is just to authorize a hearing date for a conditional use hearing. The Fetters Mill Community Association has submitted an amendment, a requested amendment to their conditional use approval relative to their landscaping and buffer requirements around the perimeter of the tract. Essentially, they're asking to revise the spacing requirements. That application is under review. We've requested some additional information on the actual layout of the plan and some of the scheduling aspects for replacement going forward. So hoping to get that information here soon. What we're requesting, or what we're suggesting rather, is that the board authorize a hearing, conditional use hearing, for their regularly scheduled meeting on August 10th.
Seems like a no-brainer at this point in time. Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, agreed, that's fine. Make a motion to authorize a hearing date and notices to amend the conditional use application for Fetters Mill. Hearing on August 10th.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor? Aye. Zach, I will note that you set that up for August 10th so that you didn't have to bring us in for another date. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
And finally, H.
Sure, so this was discussed in a little more detail by Jerry and company earlier. This is really just an authorization again for a rezoning hearing associated with the 6 Mill Lane property. It's the property along Mill Lane adjacent to the firehouse property. It's currently zoned R1. It would need to be zoned institutional, or INS, in order for the police station project to move forward. So as Jerry outlined earlier, we're targeting a zoning map amendment or rezoning hearing on it's a rescheduled meeting for the Board of Supervisors, as I understand it, for Tuesday, September 13th. I believe that's been confirmed, correct?
Yes, that date is confirmed. Yep. Okay. Any questions, Rich, Peter?
None.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about this on and off for a while. Donna, any questions from the public?
No, they're not.
Nope. Okay. Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to authorize a hearing date and legal notices for the zoning map amendment for 6 Mill Lane. From R1 to INS, hearing on September 13th, 2022.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
passes. Steve Brown,
Brown.
are you back?
Yes.
I can't see you. All right, there you go.
I never really left. Property maintenance, it's, unless the board has questions, they're really a lot of high grass, surprise this time of year. Mark Moses has been handling the bulk of these duties with the retirement of Ted Locker, and he provided a short report to me, which I believe is in your packet. So he's been busy, but he's been staying on top of these issues.
Sure. So I don't see any need to send our solicitor for something along this line. Do you agree, Peter?
Well, yeah, this report, there's no action required by the board. It's just a FYI. Zach will cover the zoning hearing board.
Okay. Okay, Zach.
Sure, so the first item here is a new application for decision to see if the board would like to send the solicitor to take a position on the application. It's a request for variance, several variances related to an existing home on Tom Circle. The house would be replaced by a new house. There's a number of nonconformities that they'd be looking to expand or modify. So the relief is for the minimum side yard aggregate requirement. So in other words, they have to meet a total of a certain amount overall on both sides combined, that is. A minimum side yard requirement on just the one side, the minimum setback from streets and building face to the ultimate right-of-way, and for the minimum setback related to parking areas. They're also requesting relief from the zoning, the landscaping and buffer requirements to allow a 2-inch caliper tree in place of a 3-inch caliper tree just based on availability. So happy to go into more specifics if you like. There's also a representative of the applicant here if you have any specific questions.
My only question is, has the surrounding neighbors been informed at this point in time?
I'll let the applicant's representative handle that. I know he's got some information here as well, so.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Mark Gordon from Milestone Planning and Design, and I'm representing Mr. Helmley at 3A Tom Circle. Doing some planning work for him and regarding his lot and the variances we seek to demolish the home and build a new structure. The current house is a 400 square foot home. I said that correctly, 400 square feet. It's a very small bungalow that was built as a in-law suite in the 40s, and it's obviously not conducive to regular family living, and has 2 rooms and a bathroom. So it's very tight quarters. But yes, we will be seeking variances from those requirements that Zach mentioned. And the building, if you can see this plan, the gray area focused on the plan here, and then the existing home is the area highlighted in orange. Probably very difficult for you to see, but the new home will not encroach any more than the existing home does in those areas of encroachment. But it is obviously a larger home, about a 1,500 square foot footprint versus 400. Have basically, front load 2-car garage. So we're going to take parking off of the right-of-way into garage and driveway area. There's a shared driveway and parking area today with the neighbor. We have sent letters to all the neighbors. That notice went out yesterday, and I have that affidavit for Zach tonight signed by the owner. Well, so that's a requirement. I'm here to answer any of your questions.
I don't have any questions. I think it looks like a nice replacement.
I don't have any questions either, and I think the zoning hearing board could handle this quite easily.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Very good.
Go ahead. Yep.
Donna, any public comments on this?
No, there's not.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, Zach.
All right, next up is a relatively new, well, brand new agenda item for existing or recent decisions by the zoning hearing board. Thought it might be good to have these on the board agenda just to review once the decisions are made, in case there's something that the board has questions about, if they'd like to take a position or ultimately appeal the decision. So these two recent applications are actually related to the two projects that were requested an extension earlier. One for 10 Malin Road. They had received variance relief for various setbacks, impervious coverage, and parking requirements. That one was actually subject of a previous zoning hearing board decision, but their most recent decision was dated June 27th, 2022. The other is for 9 South Malin Road. That's Evergreen Landscaping. They also received various setback relief for both the driveways and building setbacks, and also a special exception to permit some limited outdoor storage. Again, the decision dated June 27th, 2022. So I guess the question before the board is whether or not they feel they want to take any sort of position or appeal these decisions of the zoning hearing board.
I read the report that they made and seemed pretty thorough to me. Rich, Peter?
I agree.
Same. It is helpful to, when a new decision comes out, to send it around. I mean, we see it effectively before the hearing, but it's nice to see the result. So it is a good idea.
Agreed. That was Steve Brown's idea. We'll have to give him credit, I guess.
Okay,
Good job,
we'll go with
Steve.
that.
Great. Okay, thank you. Next is public comments. Anyone in the audience or on Zoom, Donna, that have any questions?
Yes, we have somebody on site.
I'll remind that we've got a 3-minute limit, and if you can give your name and address when you come to the mic. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Miles, 74 Malin Road. Donna, I did sign in over there. Hello, board members. I'm here today to discuss the relationship between the police department and the board. In particular, the oversight regulations and procedures that are currently in place to maintain and ensure quality and fairness in our local law enforcement. My goal tonight is not to try to make this specific to my own needs, but hopefully to address the needs of the township at large, the residents. Does anyone want to comment on the interaction between the police and the board, the regulations, oversight? Okay.
No.
Okay, I take that as a no. My goal is to improve function of the township and help other residents that may have similar problems what I've faced. I was reviewing the feeding article of discrimination. Certainly not looking to bring up old wounds, but actually the opposite, maybe to prevent new wounds, heal the old wounds, and prevent the residents from paying hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax money and insurance money to settle claims such as that. I do see similarities between this and a discrimination case that I've been involved with. I'm certainly not going to point out any validity to the case that was settled against the township. In fact, I see that there's a potential here, you might say a little bit of a Me Too movement, potentially. I'm not going to comment on that either. Regarding this article, it seems it's written that the township board was maybe too involved with what the police should be hiring and promoting within their department. My particular experience is the opposite with Mr. Evans and myself, that it's been very, very difficult to get anything going on investigation year after year after year after year, to the point where it's very frustrating. So if there's not going to be any discussion in this format, I'm going to move toward an agenda being on the agenda. I hope that is not unnecessarily denied. In lieu of that, I'm certainly open to a smaller board hearing or maybe a larger board hearing, so I can maybe a little more specific, so I don't have to get into particular personal situations with the board, to see how there's an oversight between the police and the board, so that you can hopefully help things improve certain situations, I guess on a case-by-case basis, hopefully, and to get it right. So we can have a very high-functioning township where residents are treated properly and they're taken from point A to point B all the way through this process. And that's 3 minutes and 4 seconds. But I thank the board and everyone here for all that you do. I've been in this township for a long time, and I appreciate all the challenges that you people have to negotiate. And Chief Yeager, I appreciate you as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. Donna, any other comments?
No, it doesn't look like it. No.
Okay. Next, I will read the consent agenda, and should you have any questions, stop me, interrupt me, and I'll try to read it in full before the storm knocks everything out of power where I'm at. Item A, approve the meeting minutes from June 8th, 2022. Ratify payment of bills for June of 2022 in the amount of $1,228,059.53. Accept the treasurer's report as of May 31st, 2022. Approve the memorandum of understanding for township manager, police chief, and police lieutenant. Approve amendments to the employee handbook for paid time off benefits. Approve proposal from the Standard Insurance Company for short-term disability benefits. Approve payment number 5 in the amount of $130,403.70 to MECO Construction for work done. Approve resolutions to 2022 fee schedule. The recreation fee increase to $3,155. Approve the 2022 fee schedule detail rate increase from $110 to $120 for each officer, and the corresponding cancellation of $240 per officer with a minimum of 2 hours. Approve the CoStar's purchase of replacement tire loader in the amount of $188,000. approve purchase from Next Gen for the replacement of 2 cameras for the police department in the amount of $1,710. Any questions? Hearing none. Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any other questions or concerns?
Thank you for everyone's patience and making accommodations for me being under the weather. Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Peter. Meeting.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.